Welcome to Salaam Nerds Podcast. We do reviews and recaps of nerd culture, reality TV, and current events from this week.
Yo, it's the Salaam Nerds. My name is Dean, aka Watson Dean. I'm here with my boy Chad.
We drop live episodes on YouTube on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. All episodes can also be found everywhere podcasts are found. Thank you to all our supporters. Please help us by subscribing and leaving a good review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yo, Salaam Nerds. It's your boy Neebs, aka Watch with Neebs, and I'm here with my co-host Jeff, aka DJ 28 Days Later.
28 days later, what?
Yo, did you know that 28 Days Later, the movie with Cillian Murphy, or Killian Murphy, I don't know how to say his name, is getting a sequel?
I had no idea.
It's going to be called 28 Years Later.
Was that the one? Why am I thinking James Franco?
No, it's Killian Murphy. He wakes up in the middle of an apocalypse and everyone's a zombie.
Oh, I'm thinking of the one where like he was he went hiking and then got trapped. It was James Franco. What am I thinking of?
That's 127 hours.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, 127 hours. Hold on, let me angle this up right so I can be in the
we
right.
gotta do the thing. Yeah.
You gotta do the thing. Hold on, how do you do this thing? All right, here you go. All right, listen, we are back, guys. It is Salaam Nerds Weekly. If you don't know what Salaam Nerds Weekly is, it is a weekly podcast where we do not do recap episodes. Instead, we go over all of the fun current event in pop culture and nerd culture. So join us as we talk about everything and anything without spoilers, unlike our recap shows, which involve a lot of spoilers. And we also do these things called nerd facts. And Jazz, since today our guest is running a little late, I was thinking we could do the nerd facts early.
Okay, I'm down.
Do it. We got people in the comments. What up, Toyin? We got you in the comments. All right, let's do it. Let's do some nerd facts, and then we'll do the pop culture stuff later. So we're flipping it. We're putting that thing, flip it, and reverse it.
I mean, we are literally reversing it. So yeah,
we are reversing it. We are reversing it, man. All right, let's do this. All right. So, Jazz, did you know?
No.
Most birds, their bones are so hollow and light, their feathers weigh more than their skeleton.
I feel like I knew that, and like you just unlocked a core memory from like my past.
Yeah, I feel like there's something that's like very like obvious once somebody tells it to you. Also, you're like,
right, yeah,
you're like, duh, of course they have to be hollow, because like how else would they like be able to fly? Because bones are heavy.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and so it's definitely one of those facts I feel like I've heard before, and then now I'm just like, oh yeah. Shout
out to Yusuf in the Instagram chat. Shout out to everybody on the Instagram chat. We see you guys, love you guys. We'll be sharing any stuff. Yeah, it makes them fly. Twain's right. I thought that's really interesting. Also, like, does that mean that their bones are very like breakable? Not that I want to go around.
I would assume so.
Right? Because like they be plucking fish right out of the air. If their bones are that weak, how could they do that?
Physics.
All right, yeah. I'm sure somebody knows. I'm sure somebody. All right.
Look, I know my cats will occasionally bring me a dead bird, so I'm assuming they have to be hollow. Like,
yeah, dude, there was like this little ball on my stairs, and I stepped on it, and it ended up being like a bird egg, and I didn't know it was a bird egg, and I was like, oh, and it was like I crushed it, and I'm like, oh, okay, weird, and then I walked like a few feet further, and I'm like wiping my feet, and there's like a beak in it, and I was like, ew, so sad.
Ooh, gross.
That was gross. That was gross, man. Ugh.
Rip to that bird.
I know. Ugh.
Rip in peace.
I know. I was sad. I was like, oh no, I murdered. But like, why did the bird let his egg fall on the freaking floor? Like, should have kept it in the nest. Like, what were you doing, bro? Why were you being such a bad parent?
Rejected egg.
I know. I know. All right. I don't know how to say this word, but it sounds like die Sonia, which sounds like you want some girl named Sonia to die. Dysania is the state of finding it hard to get out of bed in the morning. Oh, well, okay, fair enough.
I mean,
It,
it makes
it
sense.
makes sense. It's got the word die in it, so I guess that makes sense. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I suffer from dysania. That's interesting. That's very interesting. The principal use of nicotine, other than for cigarette, is insecticide. I hear this all the time.
Yeah, I knew this one because like apparently a lot of animal or like a lot of plants, right?
Yeah.
They evolve certain chemicals over like generations just to make them more resistant to people or like, animals eating them or, you know, like eating the seeds and whatnot or eating
Yeah.
like the fruits. And we humans are like, fuck you. We're going to do it anyways. We don't care if nicotine's bad. We're going to straight up like get addicted to it. Same thing with caffeine. Same thing with like spicy food like capsaicin was
Yeah.
evolved just like, get animals to stop eating the fruiting bodies of those plants. And we're just like, nah, this is great. We're going to poison ourselves and have some fun with it.
Isn't that what we're doing with milk? Because like I remember one of our other facts that we did in another episode. They were talking about how lactose intolerant is like because you're not supposed to drink milk after a certain age, and the fact that you do, you end up like developing like resistance to it. But in general, you're not supposed to have resistance to it. Like the people who are lactose intolerant are supposed to be the normal people.
They are, yeah. And in fact, like if you stop drinking milk for a while, you
Yeah.
will develop lactose intolerance.
That's crazy. I don't ever want to do that because I love ice cream. So
You should not do that.
yeah, that's crazy.
You gotta drink milk every day, right? Got milk?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good episode. Go back and watch that episode where we talk about that because that's the one where I talk about the girl who was lactose intolerant and I took her to ice cream and she didn't tell me that until after I bought ice cream at the place.
Well done, man.
And no, and then she got mad because I didn't offer her any. Remember? I'm like, why would I offer you something that gives you lactose intolerance? Like, I don't understand. But yeah, she got really mad. A snood is a type of hairnet used to protect and shape mustaches. Oh, they make hairnets for mustaches?
It's called a snood.
It's called a snood.
I have questions.
I've seen bear hairnets. I've seen those. I've never seen a mustache hairnet.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is. Like, that's fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know.
And it's called a snood?
But they said it's a type of hairnet used to protect and shape mustaches. So not to protect it from food, but to protect the actual mustache.
Mm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this is, fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, did you know this? The term brain freeze was invented by 7-Eleven to explain the pain one feels when drinking a Slurpee too fast. 7-Eleven came up with that?
I did not know that.
Yo, that's crazy.
Shout out to 7-Eleven for that one. And have you been to their like Instagram ever?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So they do one of the coolest things, all right? A lot of people who are like really into cars will take their car to 7-Eleven and do like a little photo shoot.
Okay.
And then sometime in the past, 7-Eleven was like, you know what? Yes, we're going to embrace this. And they'll start featuring like people's builds and cars on their Instagram. Like,
That's so cool.
yeah, like they're such a good, well, I wouldn't say good, but they're a cool company, kind of.
I mean, it's a wholesome marketing campaign, at least.
Correct, yeah.
Right? That's like people come in with their cool cars outside of 7-Eleven. You take a picture of it, put it on your page. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Shout out
And
to
they've just
7-Eleven.
embraced the car culture scene. Like, good
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And like, sometimes you just got to stop at a 7-Eleven before you go on your road trip.
Yeah.
Yo,
Did you know one of those letters is actually lowercase in 11?
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? Aren't they all lowercase?
No, only one is lowercase.
What? No way.
Yeah. Look up the 7-Eleven logo.
7-Eleven logo. I'm gonna look this up. 7-Eleven logo. No, they're all capital. Oh wait,
Nope.
but you're saying one is lowercase?
The N at the end is lowercase.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
No one really knows. The reason 7-Eleven gave was like it just looks better, but people will
Why
disagree
is
with that.
Oh, it's a top search. Why is the N lowercase? To make the logo look more graceful.
Right, yeah, it's just some stupid reason they gave. What I think it was is that it just somehow made it past like all the reviewers and
Yeah,
nobody noticed it, and now they're trying to save face.
I think so too, man. I think so too. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Super interesting, man. That's super cool. Let's do one more fact, and then I think our guest is here, and we can introduce our guest. All right.
Okay, okay.
Without an atmosphere, the surface temperature of Earth at the equator would be 176 degrees by day and fall to negative 20 degrees at night.
Thank God for our atmospheric insulation.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Speaking of atmospheric insulation and, kind of like the end of the world stuff, have you been watching Fallout?
No, I have not.
I have just binged the entire season of Fallout, and it's actually really good.
I will do that right after the runoff elections here in Texas, which are early voting begins tomorrow and lasts all week, and election day is Tuesday, May 28th.
So if you're in the area, don't forget to vote.
Go vote.
That's right. But yeah, check out Fallout. It's pretty good. I got a little scared in episode 2 because one of the characters was what's that guy name who's Michael something, who's like super hardcore racist Zionist guy. Forgot his name.
You're acting like I know, man. I don't know anybody.
What's that guy? Hold on. Michael Shannon, I think his name. No,
I don't know.
Michael. What's this guy's name?
Doesn't matter.
Is from Fallout.
Michael Rapport.
Michael Rappaport. That's the guy. He was in it, and I'm like so turned off by that guy that like I literally turned off the show and was like, I'm done. I'm not watching it. I am not supporting this motherfucker, right? And then like I tweeted it, and everyone's like, don't worry, he dies in like 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
From the scene that like I turned it off, he literally died like 5 minutes later. So I was like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Neat.
And I don't mind spoiling that for you because it might actually help the people watch the show more because they're like, all right,
I kind of want to watch it now.
Yeah. All right. Listen, I want to introduce one of my favorite TikTokers and Instagram person. Do you want to go by Nerd Speech? You want to go by your real name? What do you want to go by?
We can go by whatever floats your boat. Nerd
All right.
Speech, Derek.
We'll do Derek for now. Thank you so much, Derek, for joining our show. I love talking to you online. I love talking to you on TikTok. We were, we were setting up until you get here so we can save all the good conversations for you. But
Awesome.
I love your content. I love the way you do your setup and your cameras and your editing. It's so good. Welcome to our show, Salaam Nerds.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I know I ran a little bit late and I wanted to ask you guys. I was hoping I'd get here early to be able to chat with you guys a little bit first, but is it just me or do movie showtimes start later now? Like
Really?
the way I remember it.
Interesting.
The way I remember it, it was this is why I was late, by the way. The movie was supposed to start at 7:05.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like when I was a child or just not even 5 years ago, that meant the turn off the lights previews started.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's 7:05 is when the commercials, the Maria Menudos, the Nuvi, all that stuff starts. And then like 20-30 minutes later, they're like, okay, now let's turn off the lights. Now let's give you the 20 minutes of previews.
Yeah.
So it was Planet of the Apes. The showtime was at 7:05. I literally checked my phone because I knew I had planned it to just squeeze it in before this recording, and I pick up my phone and I just to check and it said 7:50. So 45 minutes after the showtime is when the movie actually started.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I don't know if that's just like me with this specific theater because it's happened before. Or if that's just a new way of doing it and I'm like just like an ancient old man and I'm not realizing it yet. I don't know.
What theater did you go to?
It's actually a brand new Regal theater down here in South Florida.
Okay.
And I love it because Miami gets a lot of like the Hollywood treatment on TV and movies and stuff.
Yeah,
And it's living here is not as fun unless you're like in that age group or whatever it might be. Or like you're in that party scene. If you're just living
Yeah.
here trying to live, like it's rough, and I've got a kid and it's it's not fun for me per se.
Yeah.
So going to the theater down here, and I've made content around this, it's rough because you get a lot of people yelling and oh my god, there's a scene in one of the scary movies where I forget her name, the actress, but she's like yelling at the screen and like chiming in. You get a lot of that down here, surprisingly, in
Oh no.
2024. Yeah.
That's funny.
And then like when you get like the Marvel movies and stuff like that, it's literally like unbearable sometimes because everybody's losing their minds at every little cameo or whatever. Anyway, long story short, I kind of digress there, but I drive the 30 minutes north from where I'm at to Dania Beach, specifically to get a theater that's a little bit more quiet, a little bit more chill. And they've been fine, except these last couple of movies, they've been a little bit weird with the showtimes, man.
That is weird.
Interesting.
A lot of people in the comments are saying they noticed that too. Even on Instagram, people are saying they noticed that. So
Yeah.
I guess it's true. But like they got to promote stuff, and the movies aren't doing well, so they want to take the time to
It has
promote
to be.
everything they can. I get it.
Yeah.
Someone says I need my Nicole Kidman scene. I heard they're retiring that. I heard they're retiring the Nicole Kidman AMC scene, which is sad.
Yeah.
I love that.
Driving home, I was just like, God damn it, capitalism, because it had to have been that. Like I wasn't sure just how exactly it was the fault of capitalism, but that makes a lot of sense. They're probably cramming in extra stuff.
Yep.
And then when we got there today, we got there maybe 15 minutes early, and they were like, oh, give us 5 more minutes. We're still cleaning up from the previous showtime. That's never happened. I've never been 20 minutes early and they're still cleaning up. So it has to be that they've like jam-packed that schedule full of promotional stuff in order to just, we got to make money somehow,
Yeah, it makes sense because like we're in this era where we all have like ad block on and we don't see like the ads.
Yeah.
So they have to advertise somehow, and what better way than to force us into a place where we can't use ad block?
That's so true. Also, like we have like TiVo where we're like forwarding through all the commercials, and like we have the ad-free Hulu or whatever. So yeah, I totally get it. Someone says that scene is really funny because it's about going to the movies, but bitch, we already here. That is so true.
Toying's on point there.
I was like, hey, we need that commercial during the freaking previews of at home, not in the theater where we're already there. That's so true.
Thanks, Nicole.
Oh man, but that's funny. But I always do time my my pee breaks with the trailer. So usually I'm like, all right, I'm gonna count 3 trailers in and then go. That way I get the optimal like enjoyment out of the show. Like I haven't gotten to the science.
Hold up, how long do you pee to where like you're 3 trailers in and then you time it to like you come back right when the movie starts?
No. I mean, so I don't have to pee during the movie. So I want to wait as long as I could before going to the bathroom. Because if I go too early, then like halfway through the movie, I'm gonna have to pee again.
I'm just trying to figure out like how long it takes because like those trailers, I'm watching like 10, 20 trailers sometimes, and if you're going after the first 3 and you're coming back right when the movie starts, bruh, that's a lot of time there.
The thing is, like, cause like I don't want to wait too long because I want to see some of the trailers, right? So like I don't want to miss all of them. So like I'll watch the first 3 because those are usually the good ones. Then there's like a few middle ones that are not great, and then they end it with another good one. So that's the secret.
Okay.
It's a sandwich. They sandwich you.
That
true. Makes more sense.
That's
now.
true.
Yeah.
I saw the Deadpool trailer today, but a PG version because like, and it caught me off guard because I was expecting the one we have already seen.
Yeah, the red trailer.
And then he doesn't show the weapon. He doesn't make the erectile dysfunction joke in the same manner that he did in the thing, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then I realized, oh, we're in a movie with in a movie theater
Yeah.
with children, and it was really funny to me because at the end, instead of can I curse on here?
Yeah, you can
Yes.
curse on him.
Yeah. So instead of the let's fucking go, they were just like let's go. You know, like they because he's got the mask on,
The
you
mask
know,
you
so
can't see.
so it's
Yeah.
just like let's go.
Dramatic pause.
And
Go.
then Logan, they just show him saying, you hear the let's, and then you just see him say go. And it's
That's
just
so
like,
great.
oh, okay, it does not hit the same for sure.
I wonder how that movie is going to do when it comes out on like TBS, when it's on public television, because they have to bleep out like half the
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it's gonna be so weird, and I see that happen every now and then, because like every, I guess, NBA finals or whatever random sporting event is on only live TV for some reason. Still, I'll sign up for like YouTube TV for the free month or whatever, and I'll just sometimes come across those TBS showings, and I forget that it exists. So I'll be like, wait, why are they showing Age of Ultron? You know what I mean? And it's just like that's just the schedule for those things. It's like, all right, what was hot 10 years ago? All right, perfect. Slap it on prime time on TBS.
That's what happens. Yeah.
And let's edit it to hell.
They edited it to hell. That's crazy. Well, speaking of Age of Apocalypse, let's talk a little bit about X-Men. So the X-Men 97 show just wrapped up. It seems to be doing really well, like high praise. I think a lot of people are saying a lot of good things about it. Even the people that were calling it woke in the beginning and saying they ruined it, even they have to eat their words because it was phenomenal. And a lot of cool stuff came out from it, and people are like, really excited for season 2. And they said that Bo DeMaio's vision will be honored in season 2, but he will not be there. We still don't know why he was fired, but he was. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see season 2 without him, because if season 2 doesn't live up to season 1, everyone's going to say, "Oh, it was because of Bo. Bo is the one who made it happen. If it wasn't for him." So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Derek, about the X-Men and the season 2?
Ah, man. I mean, I think this first season, at least for me, and my friends will say that I hate everything. I don't. Like online persona wise, I think I'm a pretty level-headed dude, the way I approach certain things and the way I review or critique certain things. I think that if we're being honest, the nostalgia had a big pull with this season.
Sure.
But I think about maybe halfway through the season, that was out of the window. I think it was flying on its own.
Wholeheartedly agree.
And I think you hit it spot on with the Bo DeMaio stuff. The people want to be angry about something. And I think it's going to be extra juicy irony when season 2 comes around, if it is not as good or whatever.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, these guys are going to be like praising the Mayo. They're going to be saying, "Oh man, you see where he's gone, and this and that, and this is what happens." And the creator, he was so invested in this, and then they fired him. Disney, blah 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 blah. And then this time around, it was either silence. I didn't see anybody post anything about it at all, or just be super quick to speculate about whatever the reason was. Oh, it's because he had an OnlyFans. Oh, it was because he was difficult to work with. Oh, it was because who knows. And the typical kind of, I think, in my opinion, is like vilify the person of color is what I think happened to him. But not to the extent that I've seen it happen to other people either. But it was either that, but it was more so silence. So I think season 2 is going to come around, and if it doesn't live up to expectations, people are going to be just kind of up in arms all of a sudden, and they're going to be the biggest DeMaio fans we've ever seen. But I think it'll live up to things in a different way. I can also see it just, even among people that like it, I could see it hitting different. For me, I could see it hitting different. And sticking with the Marvel theme, for me, the first movie that felt that way was Age of Ultron. Yeah, it was like, I liked it, but I remember thinking like, it's a different kind of movie. It's a different kind of sequel. Right. It's setting some things up here. It's not like the first Avengers at all. I think that's where it's heading with season 2, but I might be wrong, because season 1 was just like balls to the wall, like really just took it out of us every Wednesday, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I agree.
That's my theory, actually, is that because season one was like so on the nose with a lot of things going on politically, somebody very high up was like, wait a second, I'm not happy. We got to get rid of this guy. And I think that's
Mm.
why he's being removed.
I mean, even then, he's been saying that a lot of the stuff that he's depicted had to do with 9/11 and the Pulse Club shootings, right? Which
Mhm.
aren't very like super political in a way, but then you can't ignore some of the stuff that's happening right now with an ongoing genocide, with the genocide that's happening in the show. And it's very hard not to put two and two together. It's very hard to not see all the devastation that's been done and see people being used as scapegoats and people being used as like terrorists and stuff like that, and not seeing the same thing with Magneto happening here with the Magneto was right, and then begging for tolerance and begging something from your oppressor is perhaps not the way to go about doing it. Maybe Charles was wrong to go about it and try to push the model minority narrative to be like, hey, some of us are good, you should be nice to us, where Magneto is like, listen, we're not asking, we're telling
We're
you,
demanding.
we're demanding equality, right? Which I think is really cool. I know, Derek, you made some TikToks about that and stuff like that too. Do you have any thoughts?
yeah, so you bring up Magneto, and just to go back real quick on the relevancy of like current events in real life.
Yeah,
It's 9/11 based, it's post nightclub shooting based. Those aren't necessarily super relevant things, but I
yeah.
think it says a lot that something that happened at this point 20 years ago almost,
Hmm.
has such a huge overlap with current events that people just kind of took it for recent things.
Right.
Mhm.
They took it at face value with like what's happening nowadays. Um, and then on the Magneto front, I think it was just like a masterfully done character, because he starts off almost kind of like uh in the first episode when he's on trial, and
Yeah,
or the second episode when he's on trial, and he's talking about like, I went from being the person that was oppressed and then seeing my people be the oppressors.
yeah,
Like that was just kind of almost like spot on to what's going on now,
yeah.
and not, obviously there's nuance and stuff in real life,
Of
but just
course.
that's what kind of spoke to me in that moment, that I was just like, man, they're coming for this, they're coming for what's going on. And then Bo DeMayo kind of clarifies it, and then a lot of it just is the character, is Magneto, that is
Yeah.
just who he is.
Yeah.
So
Historically,
that
yeah.
the translation onto the screen was just bound to kind of overlap. And then, yeah, of course, by the end, you've got the overlapping, or sorry, the switch up, where it's like, hey, I'm not asking anymore, I tried it Charles's way. And this might make some people upset, but mutants have the right to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And I say that with a bit of an attitude, right? Because the way that phrase is used in real life is not at all appropriate, in my opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was masterfully done. But what really speaks to me in the show in its entirety is kind of like what's left out. And this is what you were referring to in terms of like a few of my recent videos, where the other characters, and I don't think this is done on purpose. I don't think this is done because Bo DeMayo is, he's a great writer, but I don't think he wrote this way specifically. I think this is just done because it's a show about the X-Men and mutants.
Sure.
But all these other heroes exist in the universe. We've got Spider-Man, Daredevil, Cloak and Dagger, a few other mutants that we got cameos from, Iron
Sure.
Man, Captain America. Iron Man and Captain America, I think, are probably the two biggest ones that this
Yeah.
applies to. But you've got all these other heroes not really doing anything.
No.
Like where you would think some of them would lend some aid to Genosha.
Yeah.
You'd think some of them would maybe like show up for the X-Men when they're responding to a crisis at the Capitol.
For
Yeah.
real.
Like they don't. It's like, oh, that's a mutant thing. It's maybe it's not, that's not my what is it? That's not my jurisdiction,
Yeah.
or the government didn't sign off on me doing this, or whatever, whatever the Captain America's thoughts might be. But you've got heroes like Iron Man that aren't necessarily beholden to something like that. You've got heroes like
Black
Spider-Man,
Panther.
Daredevil, Black Panther. Yeah, you've got all these heroes, and granted, and I've said this in my video too, granted, they're busy, they're being heroes. But the biggest example of this is during that cameo fest in the finale. You see them all like scrambling, right? Like shit has hit the fan, electricity's gone, everybody's looting, there's riots. They're just trying to like react at this point.
Mhm.
And that's after the things have hit the boiling point because they ignored the like minority that was being oppressed actively.
Yeah.
And I think that is to me what speaks volumes into like a reflection of the real world, where every day somebody's being oppressed, somebody's getting their rights taken away, somebody's there's a every other day it feels like there's a Supreme Court case about like reproductive rights and birth control.
Mhm.
Even
Mhm.
there's all these things that happen every day, and there's the people that defend it, there's the people that are fighting for it, granted, and the allies that support that group, and then there's the people that are against it, right? There's the real life friends of humanity is what I call them, where they kind of rail against this modern idea that women should have rights and minorities shouldn't be scared to drive in their car type of shit. But then you've got probably the majority of the population, not just in America but probably the world, that doesn't say shit, that they
Yep.
don't care, they're not invested, they're not into politics. And I get it, because it's exhausting. I understand it. It's mentally draining. There's times where like I just don't feel like posting because of like all this other shit. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna jump on TikTok and be like, hey guys, let's talk about my favorite cartoon. Like I get it. I understand not wanting to be involved, not wanting to be understanding. And
Capitalism.
yeah,
entire-
exactly. And then that's the other side of it too, is I understand having to kind of continue with whatever facade or whatever brand or persona that you've got that is not an activist, that is not invested in politics. And everybody's entitled to that, but at some point it will get to that. It will get to a point where you will be impacted.
Yeah,
It might
I
be
mean,
tomorrow, it might be-
we're seeing that now, right? People are blocking celebrities and stuff like
Yeah.
that because they've been apathetic throughout the whole 8 months, haven't said a single thing, and people have been towing the line and saying like, "Hey, I won't say one thing or the other," and then take brand deals from companies that are supposed to be boycotted, and then people are like, "You know what? Let's start blocking these people," and now they're all coming out and saying, "Hey, I want to talk about how genocide is wrong." Like, oh, it wasn't wrong 6 months ago. Like, it's wrong now.
Yep.
I think that is really interesting. Like, and you brought up Spider-Man, which I think is really interesting because like all of these superheroes, they're kind of like, you realize they're kind of like not in mutant business. Because if you watch the Spider-Man X-Men crossover, Spider-Man goes out of his way to go, "Hey, I'm not a mutant. I got my powers differently." He
Yeah.
was almost disgusted by being compared to a mutant.
He's like,
Which
I'm
is-
a mutate.
Yeah, I'm a mutate.
Yeah.
Mutate.
Which is kind of like when like someone who is like dark skinned gets mistaken for an Arab, and they're like, whoa, I'm Italian, okay?
Yeah.
I just have a tan. I'm from Sicily, and
Yeah.
they go out of their way to make sure people don't wrap
I
them
know Cuban
into that.
people. I know Cuban. I'm Cuban, but I know other Cubans that look more
Yeah.
on the Arab side, just out of like ancestry,
Yeah, of course.
and it happens all the time. There's similarities between it and that kind of deal too. And even just like, it happened to me recently where a friend of mine's husband, I always thought he was Dominican,
Mhm.
and it turns out he's just black. He's American black,
Okay.
and I literally thought he was just Dominican, and it's just that I guess somewhere along the lines, genetically the appearance is there,
Right.
but he doesn't speak Spanish. He doesn't have any family like that and stuff like that. So it happens all the time, and it's to your point. It's sad that like people feel the need to like have to clear it up,
Yeah.
because it's like no, I'm not that, and it's just like what if you were, man?
Yeah.
Who's even
nothing
talking
wrong
about
with it, but you know,
Yeah.
Like literally, if Spider-Man was a mutant, like who would know? Like what's the difference? Like
Yeah.
it's really no difference, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like any mutant could just say, "I got my powers not from mutation, but I got it from like a spider bite." Like
I was
anyone can
bitten
say
by
that.
a cyclops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah.
That's
And a
funny.
lot of it is semantics too. It's like I was saying, like, I don't think Bodemeo wrote that episode, that cameo fest, with what I was saying as an intent.
No,
That's
I
just
don't
kind of
necessarily.
something that's just more of like an observation, like, hey, art imitates life sometimes, even by mistake. And I think that when it comes to Marvel comics specifically, because I don't think DC has like at least not a fair enough equivalent to like the X-Men. But
Mhm.
that you've got all these different groups. You got the Avengers, you've got the Illuminati, you've got obviously the X-Men, you've got what is it, the Canadians, Alpha Force.
Yeah, Alpha Force.
You've got all these teams, you've got all these groups. So like a little bit of it is semantics. Like, yeah, they can't always cross over. Like, we literally can't publish enough books to like have them cross over and be in each other's business all the time. And like somebody said, I think during Secret Invasion or something, it's like, oh, why didn't he just call the Avengers? And it's just like, you know the answer. You know why he didn't call the Avengers, right? Because
They don't got the budget.
They don't have a budget for it. Yeah, this is a Disney Plus show. Like, just suspend your disbelief and just watch the damn show.
just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. But I think with the X-Men specifically, there's a real valid question to say, like, why don't more other heroes, non-mutant heroes, get involved? Why isn't there? And obviously, yes, they can't publish enough books and that kind of deal. But it's also like, that would make a great story, though. That would make a good story of like allyship and kind of what an ally deals with versus like actual mutants and the struggles of, hey, like, I'm not a mutant, but I support you and I'm literally siding with you in this registration act or whatever the big MacGuffin is in the story. And here I am paying the price, kind of off the top of my head, similar to Peter Parker revealing his identity.
Right.
Like he kind of put himself out there. He went and he supported something he typically wouldn't. And he paid the price for it. Something similar to that, but with human rights and mutants as the kind of device to portray that.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. One thing we got in the comments, Lone Wolf 7 is in the comments. He goes, but they did turn Magneto into a villain at the end, which is one of those things that like it gets me, which is like, I don't love some of the comparisons to Magneto because Magneto does end up becoming a villain, even though you get the Magneto is right storyline, and you're kind of like, okay, Magneto's got a point here. He also has this like amazing dope line where they said to him like, oh, most other nations don't allow terrorists to be the leaders, and Magneto goes, yet so many allow their leaders to be terrorists. And I was like, yo, bro ate with that line. And I was like, they were going in such a great direction, but obviously, experiencing another genocide, this is his second one. It does bring that villain out of him, and he's like, listen, Xavier, we did it your way, it wasn't right, it's not working. But I think they could have found a way to just make him not like a big super villain, but still kept his like political ideologies, because like whenever somebody has like political ideologies that you're like, oh wait, let him cook, but then they just kind of ruin it all by making him a super villain, and I'm just like, oh, they took the sting out of it, because it was such a great political point, which is, it's still valid even if he is a villain. But I did notice that I was like, oh, but he becomes a villain at the end. And
I think it's good though, like,
yeah,
because like the thing is, what is a villain, right?
yeah,
It really is from a certain perspective where people are villains. Like, I'm probably the villain in a lot of people's stories, even though I don't think I am. But the whole point is that, you can end up in these exact same situations doing something, you're thinking you're doing the right thing, and you're still going to be the villain in someone else's story.
yeah.
And I think that's another point they're trying to make is like, hey, not every villain is a villain.
That's true. It does depend on perspectives. Yeah.
That is one of my critiques. I'm trying to switch out the word complaint with critiques just because it sounds
Okay, yeah,
more,
fair.
it sounds a little bit more like.
Mhm.
That's one of my critiques of the finale is that I think like you were saying, Neebs, they made him a villain at the end of it all, right? Especially after the Magneto was right, and I have a whole thought process on Magneto was right that I'll explain in a second. But they made him a villain, but at the same time, they also I don't feel focused enough on like just exactly how big the ramifications of wiping out the entire electromagnetic field of the Earth
Yeah.
was. Because I think if that was the case, then it would it'd be an easier decision for the audience to be like, oh, he's kind of not right here though.
Yeah.
At least like in my opinion, right? Like you guys might disagree, but there's kids, there's old people, that again, they may not have necessarily been the front of the line advocating for mutants either, but they don't necessarily deserve to like die out of not having technology anymore or deal with the riots or just
Mhm.
kind of victims of it all, right?
Right.
Which I think is what leads to in the show what they call the Magneto protocols, right?
Yeah. Magneto
Yeah.
Protocol.
Which I think that was the show's version of like the world has a right to defend itself.
Yeah.
So like ultimately I think it gets muddied up, and I think that's on purpose. I think that's like to spark these
Yeah.
types of conversations and
Mhm.
and I think what's funny is like this is a simple conversation we're having, right? And we're
Right.
barely reflecting it on real life and this and that. But we understand, right? We understand like who represents what and who's who. I'm sure there's people out there having this conversation and they're like hardcore Magneto.
Yeah.
And then in their day to day, they're probably like waving a certain flag that probably does not align to Magneto,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
because just because it's cool. It's just because it's cool.
Yeah.
And I talked about this back like a while back with a buddy of mine. It's kind of like the Star Wars effect, where Star Wars has always been political. There it is. You're wearing the
Yeah.
shirt. Star Wars has always been political, in like inherently. It's in the title.
Yeah. War.
Yeah, but for some reason, it took an Asian person being cast in the movie and Lando Calrissian maybe liking his robot for people to realize that Star Wars was political, which by definition is not political. That's just
No.
like gender identity, or sorry,
funny.
just racial identity for what's Kelly Marie Tran, I think is her name is.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not political. That's not woke. That's not anything. That's just straight up
All
like
it's just
representation.
demographics. That's really all it.
People exist.
You think there's no Asian people in the future in space? Come on, bro.
No, there are only Mon Calamari, no Asian people. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
just demographics. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
We've
and
all bred into or like interbred so much that we're all just one race at that point.
no, you can't
But,
say that.
okay.
You can't say that. They hate that. They hate that.
Right? Yeah.
But listen. If we did interbred and we were all one race, it wouldn't be white. It would be brown.
Can't say that. You can't say that. They're gonna hate that.
Let them hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the and that's actually something else that they talk about in or like allude to in the X-Men show. They talk about great replacement theory.
Yeah.
This fucking conspiracy that we're out to, anybody who is slightly a different color. And I've been super lucky and privileged to spend my life in South Florida, so I don't face a lot of this type of discrimination. I really don't. But I've taken road trips. I've gone traveling across the United States, and in some of these states, I got looked at. I got called my exotic little friend. Come over here, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yep.
You got called exotic little friend.
Yeah, bro. I am the least exotic person you'll ever meet.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Save for maybe I have a bit of a Latino accent. That's it.
Right. That's
I'm
common.
barely colored. So
Statistically, there's more brown, Indian, and Asian people in this world. So by technicality, white people are the exotic one. If you really think about
Yes,
it,
that's
they're
exactly
exotic.
where I was heading. That's exactly where I was heading with it. Is they talk about in the show, they talk about like you're trying to replace us. It's alluding to the great replacement theory, which is for anybody watching, the biggest bullshit conspiracy theory I've ever
Agreed.
heard, which essentially says people of color are trying to slowly replace white people. Like, I don't know who needs to hear this out there. White people have never been the dominant color
No.
on the earth. That's never been a thing. It's literally impossible by landmass calculation, by actual population calculation. Like, that's just never been the case. So you can't replace the dominant color if it was never the dominant color in the first place. Which is why I think it's mostly just seen in America, because Americans think that they are the world. They feel exceptional to the point where everything revolves around them, including some of the wildest conspiracy theories to ever hit the face of the earth.
I find it funny when no offense, Jath, when Texans have this ideology, because I was like, motherfucker, Texas is part of Mexico. like it was literally part of Mexico. Like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, how do I say Texas in English? And like people lose their mind whenever I say that. If I like,
like the native people to Texas are Mexicans, bro. Like, it's so wild to me.
Like, hey, guess what? Texas is the English translation of the word, guys. Wait, what do you mean?
The actual English translation of Texas would be friendship.
Nice.
Our state is called friendship. Like,
that's so funny.
Which is either very accurate or not accurate at all.
Depends on where you are, but yes.
Some other news for X-Men. There are rumors that Deadpool might be in season 2 of the X-Men 97 show. So that's super cool. So we might get to see that. The other rumor that we heard is Sean Ashmore, who played Iceman in the Bryan Singer, might come back to voice Iceman.
Hype.
Would be cool. That would be really, really cool.
I'm here for it.
Definitely like that. More Marvel news. Did you hear that a Nova series with Richard Rider may be in development? That is news came out. What are your thoughts about that?
So, if I recall, in the final episode of X-Men, when Forge had like the wall of the names on there, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't Nova on there?
No. Nova's not a mutant. This is separate. This is not going to be part of X-Men. This is going to be like they're going to get their own show, Nova Prime.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there might be some, hints there. Like there's like.
Well, here's the thing, right? Marvel just came out and said they have 4 different Marvel categories, and it is branded as Marvel Studios, Marvel Animation, Marvel Spotlight, and Marvel Television. So they have branded these 4 different studios, and they're going to be working independently, but also seamlessly putting in the Marvel Cinematic Universe together with it. So I'm very curious how it's going to work with these 4 studios now.
Right. I think they're just dropping hints everywhere now, and that's why.
Because there could be an animated cinematic universe outside of the Marvel MCU, which would be interesting, which would include this X-Men. It would include Spider-Man 94. It would include the Fantastic Four. It could include, even the Nova Corps. It could include a lot of different people. What do you guys think about that?
I think they're finally getting the comic book treatment.
Yeah.
Right? I think they're finally saying like, all right, we've got our flagship series that we're running. That's the MCU, right? That's the main continuity, whether you take 616, 199999, whatever you want to call it. And then animation, TV, what's the other one? Spotlight. I think those ones you can kind of switch back and forth between whether they're going to be main continuity or not. I think that's less important. I just think they're able to tell certain stories a certain way with that. She-Hulk comes to mind. We've never talked about She-Hulk, but my assumption would be that you guys probably liked it.
I was a fan.
I was a fan.
The thing is, I went in expecting She-Hulk to be this campy, little
Fun.
ridiculous, fun show, and that's exactly what I got. And then it was a little bit of like making fun of itself at the end and the finale, and like I just think people just did not get it, and I totally got it.
Yeah, and I think that's I think if that show were to come out in 2 years or 5 years, now that we've got these different studio flagship, studio mastheads or whatever you want to call them, now that we've got these different like distinctions between the different departments within the larger Marvel studios, I think it would have been much more well received
Yeah,
than it
agreed.
was, because I think people were expecting, oh, She-Hulk, oh, and then all of a sudden everybody's an Incredible Hulk fan, everybody's like a super nerd about
yeah,
and so I think that's what they'll be able to do now with all these different options or all these different studios is, hey, we could do fun stuff, we could do animated stuff, we could do things that it's a spotlight, and we can use it as a test to see if maybe people want more of it, right?
Yep.
What was it, Werewolf by Night and Ted? So
Those are
like
fun.
yeah, exactly, like it was different, it wasn't full blown like I need to have my MCU, and that'll still exist, but people will be able to at least, this is us asking a lot from people, but people will be able to at least temper their expectations and react appropriately
yeah,
when projects come out under those certain studios, instead of like, hey, everything's the MCU, that means everything has to be Endgame, which I
yeah,
know
exactly.
isn't fair, because I know some people don't try to compare to Endgame, but on some level they're biased.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
trying
Will always
to
be
like
there.
they're trying to get some sort of a level of something, and it's like, bro, this is Shang-Chi. This is
Yeah.
this is the origin story, which was great, by the way, but plenty of people don't like it. Hey, you're trying to get Spider-Man No Way Home from season 1 of Miss Marvel. That's not gonna happen, bro. She doesn't even
No,
have her powers yet. Or she's just discovering her powers. So
right.
like there's a lot of stuff that I think, and I mean this in terms of the actual fans that are being genuine and actually trying to, in good faith, critique stuff. I'm not talking about the idiots.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that I think is fair for people to say,
Yeah.
like, yeah, this just isn't for me, or this isn't what I wanted, I didn't finish it, whatever.
Mhm.
I think now the nerds, right, we're eating well, we are well fed, and then the casual audience could just stick to the MCU if they want.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right now, we got Spider-Man coming out, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, not connected to the MCU. It's going to be its own thing. So people are saying a lot of things about that. Eyes of Wakanda is also coming out. I don't know if that's connected to the MCU or not, but it's going to be through the eyes of the War Dog. So it's not going to be like connected to the MCUs in terms of like any main characters, but it's going to be like the War Dogs that they sent out. It's going to be like through their perspective. So that's going to be really interesting. So I'm really excited to see that. So I don't know. That's going to be super cool. So I'm excited to see that. Some Star Wars news. Daisy Ridley was asked if John Boyega would be in the new movie with Sharmeen Okoye-Chinoy, and she said she would love that. So I don't know. Could we see Finn back in Star Wars?
Okay.
The question for me is, does Finn want to see Finn back in Star Wars?
That's the
Yeah.
real question.
That's the real question.
Because they
Did him dirty.
I'd be mad. If I was him,
I
I'd be
would be mad
mad.
too.
I'd be,
Yeah.
because he's a nerd, bro. Like he is into this probably more than anybody else was. Like, you know how like Harrison Ford was like notoriously did not care.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think he was like, by the time Empire Strikes Back, he was already asking George Lucas to kill him off.
Yeah.
I think if there's an opposite to that, it was John Boyega.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him come back as like an older him. He was supposed to be force sensitive, is what I
Yes.
Yeah.
think JJ
He was
Abrams
supposed
was
to be
saying.
another Black Jedi.
Yep.
But somehow that never made it into the script.
Yet somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I would love to, maybe he's like almost like comic relief, but in the sense that like he's the number one at the Jedi school or whatever it is Rey's doing.
Yeah.
She's got people she's training, and
Yeah.
Finn's one of them. And it's funny, and they take a few moments to make some jokes about it, because he's like, at that point, probably 40, 50 years old compared to like the children that are probably being trained.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be kind of funny, but I think would also be an opportunity to actually see him at some point become more than just a fly now, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the one thing I know about Star Wars. As horrible as Star Wars is in terms of like how they treat their community and stuff like that, the one thing Star Wars fans love is the redemption, right? We got Hayden Christensen's redemption. We got Ahmed Best's redemption. We got some really good redemptions, and people love that. Give it a few years, and give a character that was treated horribly their redemption story, and people go crazy for it. I'm still looking forward to, Kelly Tran's redemption story, Jake Lloyd's redemption. I want to see all these people back, man. I want everyone to just have at least all of like that one sweet moment in Star Wars, and just really just get that. So I hope he gets it. I don't know if he wants it, but it'd be nice to see.
Yeah, it's really weird living in the moment of these things. It's like that meme that's like, I just want to live in precedented times. That's how I feel about Star Wars, Marvel, all these things. Like, this is all new. Like, technically with Star Wars, it's not. It's the third trilogy.
Yeah.
But this is all new in the sense that, like, for every one movie, there's 1,000 YouTube channels solely dedicated to just calling everything woke and garbage.
Yeah.
You know, that didn't exist with the prequels, and the prequels still got shit on. The prequels still had Jake Lloyd in therapy.
Yeah.
The prequels still had Ahmed Best being thinking suicidal. Like, fans still had these people honestly hating themselves from how they acted about it. And that was just with like what AOL chat rooms or whatever was popular back then.
Yeah.
So imagine now it's technically, yes, the third set of movies that we got, but the reception to it was just even easier to just knock down, right?
Yeah.
Or to shit on them and stuff. And personally, I liked the sequel trilogy from like an entertainment perspective, from a like cinema. This is so good. They're not the best. They're not the best movies. But I'm not going to sit there and go online and shit on them and spend 20 hours making videos about how it's Kathleen Kennedy's fault.
Yeah.
Which, if I remember correctly, like, she's been around since the entire time. Like, this is the first thing she did.
Yeah. Since Indiana Jones, she's been there.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, she's been around for some time now. It may not have been with Star Wars. You liked The Force Awakens, didn't you? So all of a sudden, what is it that you don't like about the other two? Is it potentially just the fact that it's a girl and that you're not a girl? Is it like, what's going on here? But long story short, it's so easy to hate, and I think the people that genuinely mean it exist. The people that genuinely don't genuinely mean it are grifters. And it enables the movement of hate to kind of get way larger than it should be. So I can definitely see, not just on a personal level of like, oh, John Boyega, Calamari Tran, but literally the movies themselves in 10, 20 years, the kids that grew up watching it now are going to be like, what do you mean people didn't like the movies back then?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, what the hell? What are you talking about? Because you go online now and you look at the prequels. The only hate you see about the prequels is me being kind of like super facetious sometimes, like
Justice
for
Jar Jar.
Yeah, or like Anakin is kind of being a creep, right? Like, I'll be facetious like that. But genuine hate for those movies, like you don't see that online anymore. You only see it when it's somebody posting about like the prequels aged pretty well, huh?
Yeah.
Or you see like Hayden Christensen being, showered with love at fan events and that kind of deal. So I think in 10, 20 years, you'll see that. And those kids will be us saying like, yo, these movies are good, and then, diversity and inclusion and all that stuff will just be kind of, hopefully be more normal back at that point too.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But
I hope so.
But yeah, I think the potential for Star Wars is I've kind of lost the plot here on what the original question is, but I think
Same.
the potential for Star Wars is there. I think it's just people need to chill out and this sounds condescending, but just like educate yourself, bro. Like to borrow a line from Superbad, read a fucking book. You know, like I know you're not hating on the Acolyte. You know, not you guys obviously, but
Yeah.
the people hating on the Acolyte because where all the white guys, like literally people saying like, where are all the white guys?
It's crazy.
I
And
don't
they're
fucking know, bro. They're not on Earth. I don't like.
and then when they don't find them, they find other reasons to this is the what I hate the most is because like your reason that you hate this is very superficial and is racist, but now because you have these feelings, you're gonna find some actual things wrong with it to justify it. So the thing they're finding wrong with it is like, oh, did a lightsaber whip? Haha, that doesn't even make work. The science on that doesn't even make sense. First of all, lightsaber science doesn't make sense.
Yep.
It really does not.
Sometimes
You know
you
what
can
else doesn't make sense?
like
All of it.
all of it.
All of it.
It's for children, guys, and but they'll try to justify it. Like same thing happened with the Little Mermaid. They were like, you know what? Scientifically, you just can't have dark-skinned mermaids because they would need melanin from the sun. And I was like, first of all, you don't know how water works because you would actually the reflection from the sun increases the sunburn that you could possibly get from the water. So that's not true. And then number two, even though it's a Danish story, it doesn't necessarily have to take place because the Danish colonized the Caribbeans. And what accent does the lobster have? Jamaican.
Caribbean, yeah.
So like even if you're trying to make some logification of your hatred, it never works.
Logification.
It never works. I'm quoting that. Logification.
Logification, strategery.
Yeah.
The Little Mermaid one was one where I think was it Little Mermaid? Yeah, I think it was Little Mermaid. It launched a bunch of memes, or like it was the beginning of this trend of memes where it's like let's recast black people with white people.
Yeah.
And I think some people did it out of like joy because it's just so hilariously not, it's satirical.
Yeah.
Right. So like they'll have like a Black Panther. Let's recast T'Challa as Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. But there's legitimate people out there that say that and they mean it. They mean it as like, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna win the debate with this.
Yeah.
How would you feel if they did this? And it's like, well, first of all, I'd be valid to feel that it is incorrect to do that because T'Challa is an African character.
The whole ancestry behind there.
Yeah. But you take that and you compare that to like the Little Mermaid. Yeah, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're spot on. The whip is it's what's trending now. I think right.
Yep,
It's
the whip.
The whip. Assassin's Creed, same thing with Yasuke. And what's interesting about the Assassin's Creed backlash is it's like, hey, oh yeah, you're so woke. You made the protagonist a black samurai that questionably, and then they become historians. Well, technically, he wasn't even a samurai. He was just on retainer for the guy because blah 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 blah. But then they follow it up with, yeah, you can't have, who would have thought that with a Japanese setting you wouldn't have accurate representation for Japanese culture. And it's like, bro, you didn't give a shit about representation until just now, this second. That you said
right.
That. You literally did not believe in cultural appropriation. Like this is the same group of people that were like, representation does not matter. Cultural appropriation is not a thing. Now all of a sudden they're like, well, the poor Japanese are being culturally appropriated, aren't they? How dare Ubisoft do that? They've gotten so woke,
Yeah.
And in the comments, retainers are samurai. Exactly. Yes, they become historians, and then they're wrong. They're just the worst historians ever, right? Because they took 3 seconds to look this all up, and then they can't connect the dots that it's like, yeah, I'm on retainer as literally a samurai. I'm I'm not on a retainer as just like some guy. I wish I could do that. I wish somebody would just pay
That'd
me
be
to be
nice.
myself.
Yeah.
You know, on retainer and
Like, what do you think lawyers do when they're on retainer? Are they not lawyers at that point?
They're just living their life, baby. They're just living their life, baby. You know?
We should go to law
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She said, what about the white guy in Shogun? Also, like, didn't Matt Damon save all of China?
Tom Cruise.
No, Tom Cruise was in The Last Samurai, but I think Matt Damon was also in one where he saved the Great Wall of China from ghosts.
No.
Yeah. So there's a movie. There's a movie where Matt Damon saves all of China at the world at the wall. And
Oh my god, I have to. I have to cancel Matt Damon now.
Hold on, hold on, I gotta find out. Matt Damon movie.
The Great Wall.
China
That's
Wall.
the name of it.
No,
Great Wall.
How original, The Great Wall.
Nailed it.
Look at him in the poster. He's front and center of the poster of like 4 Japanese.
Oh, I vaguely remember this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
My
that's so
kid
funny.
was 1 at this time, so like I was. That's all a blur, you know.
Oh my god. Yeah. They're
Wow.
monsters at the Great Wall, and only Matt Damon can save him. Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, where are you? Somebody, Matt Damon, somebody's talking trash about teachers. Come and save us. Have you seen that interview where they're like pressing his mom about like,
Yeah.
hey, doesn't it suck to get paid trash?
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck you. She does it because she loves it. How dare you?
Yeah.
Talk to my mother this way, which is pretty awesome. And you know, I like the guy, but
I mean, first of all, Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies of all time. I
Great
love
movie.
that movie. It's
Yeah.
freaking fantastic. I'm not hitting on Matt Damon, but it is really funny that nobody complained about this movie or The Last Samurai or any of these other movies. But we'll see. But
I love how Pedro Pascal's in this one too. He's everywhere.
Pedro Pascal is everywhere. You know who another person that's everywhere? Oscar Isaac. You know he's playing Jesus. Oscar Isaac is playing Jesus.
He kind of
Scorsese's Jesus.
In the movie King of Kings. I think it's an animated film, so he's technically voicing Jesus. But yeah, that man has range, and I don't mean like acting range, just like race range.
That's true.
He's so ambiguous.
That's true.
He can play any race.
And you know what, people? And he gets hate from all of those races.
He does.
And like it doesn't go anywhere, you know?
It doesn't.
Because I think unless you weaponize the white voice, you know, unless it's like, hey, I am pissed because the white guy, am not represented. That's who you want on your side. Because say what you will, they show up for whatever they're mad about.
They do.
You know, they're like Swifties. They're like the anti-Swifties.
The anti-Swifties.
You know, they'll bitch about it until it makes its way onto Fox News, and then you know, at least amongst themselves they did something.
Yeah.
And then if they're lucky, it'll crack into like a CNN or whatever, and maybe something will come from it. But Oscar Isaac has not gotten that. You know, he's gotten hate. I think he's gotten hate because he's played like a Jewish man before.
Yep.
He's not Jewish.
Yeah.
And you know, now obviously he's playing Jesus, but
Yep.
you know, according to the people that will watch that movie, Jesus is white anyway, so I don't think they'll care.
Yeah. I don't know. But that's really, really funny. But listen, man, thank you so much for being on our episode. We're at the top of the hour, man. We had a great time talking to you. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at Nerd Speech on TikTok, but that might be going away. So everywhere else, on IG, I'm at nerd.speech. You can find me on there, follow me on there. I basically talk about similar things, with the exception that it's just me yelling at my phone. I'm not yelling at Neebs and Jazz. So, you know, if you're into that kind of stuff, you know that's where I'll be.
All right, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, Salaam, nerds.
Peace.